everyone. Welcome to the third edition of the Guru Mantra podcast. And here is your host, Guru Charan Kumar. Today, we have a special student guest, Ujjwal Kaur, who scored 43 points in the final board exam. Ooh, yes, 43 points. Ujjwal, welcome to the Guru Mantra podcast and please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, thank you, sir. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for bringing me on the podcast, right? Thank you for considering me as a worthy candidate to be on your podcast, first of all. Secondly, my name is Ujjwal Kaur. I just finished the IB May of this year, right? I gave the exams May 2024. And I got 43 points. And when I'm free, I like to code or read, and I'm currently taking a gap year, so that's it actually. Yeah.
Good. So, Ujjwal, I've seen you 2 years, your pain, your struggle, your success in the TOK and extended essay. This particular podcast, we are going to take your journey about your TOK and the extended essay. Let's start with some of the questions with the TOK. Can you tell how did you select your TOK prompts and object during the grade level? What struggle did you face as a newcomer and how did you overcome it? Could you elaborate it?
Yeah, so the first thing was like choosing a prompt. So my prompt was on interpretation, because I think that's just something that like I personally wanted to explore, how different objects or different things are subject to different levels of interpretation. Right. And so then my three objects, like according to my prompt, I tried to cater my three objects to be as different as possible and to provide different arguments for my prompt. For example, my first prompt was an AI generated image, so that like I wanted it to raise questions about interpretation and subjectivity, right? So my first prompt was an AI image, and then my second prompt was logic or code. It was like some Python code, so that also like I wanted it to raise questions about objectivity. And then my third object was a negative book review of my favorite book, to show like how like some types of knowledge or some objects can have like different varying interpretations, right? So I think one of the things that I like really focused on was that each of my objects, they were very unique, and they were personal, and they were very unique. And the reason they were unique was because they were so specific. Like that AI generated image, it was a very specific image. And the negative book review of my favorite book, I think that was also like very specific. So that's how my objects were unique. And I even heard of like stories of like people having to change their objects because like they weren't unique, and like two or three people had the same objects, which is not allowed. So then they had to change their objects, which like I thought it would be like I think it would be like a big tragedy if I wrote my entire commentary and then I had to change my arguments. So I think the first thing I thought about was like making my objects very unique, and then the way I made them unique was by making them very specific. And secondly, it was like objects that I knew, like they were kind of personal to me, but, because all the objects that you talk about, they also have to have some relation to you, because like it can be the knowledge and the knower, or the knowledge or the language, like it can fall into either of these categories. So my objects were personal to me. Not only did this help me like fit it in the knowledge and the knower theme, but it also helped me like talk about them more. And then the third and like the most important thing I think is that your objects should each provide like new arguments for your topic or for your prompt, right? Because each of them should have like a uh different stance on the prompt. For example, if my prompt is, are some types of knowledge more open to interpretation than others, so my first object should be very open to interpretation, let's say, and my third object should be not open to interpretation at all. So that's what I tried to do when I was listing my objects.
Very interesting. Ujjwal, can you share two tips based on your experience to score the A in the TOK exhibition?
Yeah, so I think like building on my last point, which is like choosing three objects that show different types or different arguments for your prompt. after that you have to like delve deep. Like now that you have like three different objects that are showcasing different things about the prompt, then you have to like analyze every one of those objects differently, and then you have to choose, and then you have to like look into how it can also reveal some insights that are not very obvious. Like your TOK exhibition should say something that's not very obvious. For example, like I know that my programming logic, it's very objective, right? That is very obvious. But now I need to like delve deeper into it and find ways that it can be subjective. For example, for people who don't know programming languages, like that piece of code may not have any meaning for them. But for a computer, it holds so much meaning, right? So even if my third object is representing objectivity, I tried to also show that, like, it's not 100% objective still. Like there are these like small limitations to all my objects, and there's like, you can't just say that one object is purely objective. Like it is still subjective, even though it's representing how some types of knowledge can be objective. So I think that's the essence of TOK. Like trying to showcase like arguments that are not very obvious. I think that's something that one should do. um and then one other important thing is, make sure that your object directly answers your argument. For example, one of my objects was a negative book review of my favorite book. So many people had questions about it, like, is it the book review that's open to interpretation, or is it the book that's open to interpretation, right? And like even when I was like during the exhibition, this came up a lot. Like some of the teachers were like asking me questions about this. And I think that like during the exhibition, like when teachers were asking me questions, that also helped me identify some faults in my argument that I could go later on and fix. And for my specific case, it wasn't that I couldn't choose the negative book review of my favorite book as an object, because it didn't directly answer my prompt. It was just that I had to explain it properly. Like in TOK, if you can like explain things properly and give a valid reason for why you're doing something, then I think you're not penalized for it. So just try to do that more.
Inspiring answer. Ujjwal, I have seen on 2 years on the DP1 and 2 how you put each and every effort, especially for writing a TOK essay. I still remember when it was introduced and your first draft, second draft. Okay, that was a classic one how you achieved. So, can you tell how did you prepare yourself to write an A or B grade TOK essay?
Yeah, so I think planning is very important. Like before writing the essay, if you plan it properly, that can like help you save the time that you devote to writing it and just help you write a better essay overall. So the first thing that like I think my like teachers were really helpful, because they helped me like research into the rubric like very nicely, and then we had to like read and annotate some examples, like good examples of TOK commentaries and TOK essays. So I think that was really helpful. Like for me, like reading through other examples of successful TOK essays and TOK commentaries helped me like understand how to write a good essay. So I think reading through past essays, like good essays, is really important when preparing.
That's a very good idea. Okay, so Ujjwal, now what are some effective ways to develop a critical thinking skill in IB that will benefit you in TOK? Because TOK it's all about critical thinking. I believe I have seen personally your critical thinking in many areas. But can you tell effective ways to develop that skill that will help for IB in TOK?
I think one of the biggest ways I was able to do it is by debating with my teachers. When I like took feedback from them, and like it wasn't just like them giving me feedback and me just like understanding their feedback. It also has to be like with your teacher, it also has to be like a back and forth. So they tell you something and then you try to explain them what you're trying to say or what your argument is. Like don't give up on your argument, like try to explain to the teacher what your argument is. And then like my TOK teachers were really nice, so they kept questioning. Like I remember like even you checked my TOK commentary once, and then you had all these questions, and then while I was trying to answer your questions, I understood my argument a bit more, and I understood the faults in like how I was explaining my argument or presenting my argument, and then I was able to like work on that. So I think debating your arguments with your teachers and even like your friends maybe, but like mostly I think your teachers will like lead you, like they will pose questions that will make you like find out more things and like get more insights into your argument. So debating things with your teacher is really helpful in developing
That's a
critical
good one.
thinking, I think.
Everyone should follow debating skill. Okay. So now tell Ujjwal, what are the two common mistakes that a DP student should avoid during the TOK journey? Maybe you can tell something from your real life example. Two mistakes, Guru sir, I avoided in my TOK journey, which I want to give an advice to others.
Yeah. So I think like two like very, very common mistakes. And the thing with these two mistakes is if you avoid one, it's very hard to avoid the other one. Right. Let me like get to my point. So the first mistake is giving up on taking feedback because you don't want to work on it. This is very tempting because sometimes when you keep asking for feedback, like teachers will just keep giving you feedback, like they never stop, right? So like you're tempted to not go to them for feedback at all because you don't want to work on your arguments anymore and you're so tired of doing that. Like I completely understand where that comes from because I have also wanted to do that so much. But you cannot give up on taking feedback from your teachers because that's just going to like foolproof, like it's going to make sure that you understand your arguments and you're presenting it nicely. The second thing is, the second very common mistake is taking too much feedback. So uh like I understand it's like you shouldn't give up on taking feedback, but taking too much feedback from too many teachers can also be like a pitfall that you should avoid, because like there's a sweet spot. If you discuss your argument with like a bunch of different teachers and everyone has different opinions, then you will get so confused about your argument that you will not be able to write about it. Like there's a very like there's a sweet spot. Like you should discuss your point with like maybe two teachers, but discuss it very nicely, like go back and forth, try to make them understand what you're trying to say and really discuss it in depth, but don't like discuss it with too many like teachers. So those are my two mistakes to avoid.
The real thing for everyone. So now, Ujjwal, now let's turn into from TOK to Extend Essay. Now, I would like to see your journey to reflect on your Extend Essay journey. But before we go for the question, can you tell your Extend Essay journey and also your topic and what happened to Extend Essay to our audience?
So I think my extended essay was like very famous because of like it, like I think teachers will use it to say like this is what you should not do when you're doing an extended essay, because initially for like the ending of my 11th grade and the starting of actually like till the winter break, before the winter break of my 12th grade, I was doing my extended essay in maths. But one of our teachers, like Amit sir, who was supposed to help me do that extended essay, left after 11th grade, but I still kept on saying no, I'm going to do it in maths, I'm going to do it in maths. But then things happened and like I stopped, like I didn't put that much work into it, I think, because I thought, I don't know, like I just didn't believe that I could do it, and then I just kept postponing it. And then I had to change my extended essay in winter break. So like essentially I did my extended essay in 1 month in English. That's what I ended up doing. So that's something you should not do. Like do not, like it's okay to take the easy way out sometimes, because an extended essay is hard as it is, and it's like your first time doing any sort of research, so you can start with a subject like English or like something that you know that you might score well in, right?
Brilliant.
So just
So,
don't try to do the hardest thing possible. Yeah. And another thing that I learned was like having a good relationship with your mentor, and having a good mentor is really important because like you're researching. This is like research, that new content that you will be putting out. That's what research is, right? New information that you will be putting out. And if you do not have a good mentor for that, or you do not have a good relationship with your mentor, then it's going to be like really hard.
correct. I totally agree. Let's delve into some of the questions. Ujjwal, can you tell me what difficulty did you face while selecting the correct resource for your extended essay?
I think so when I did my extended essay in English, I the hard part was like getting credible sources. Even though for English it's not that hard to get like credible sources. There are so many, like I mostly search on Google Scholar. So if there's anything you want to search about, I would suggest like that the students should search on Google Scholar and like search through research. Like don't read opinion columns on the internet or any articles on the internet. Try to read from like research written by established scholars in your subject. So I think that's really important. But that's like in English, it was pretty easy to do that.
Good.
So,
But how did you familiarize yourself with the criteria? Because many students extend SME, they think it's like an essay. They don't know about extend essay criteria. Can you take us a journey? How did you or everyone should familiarize the criteria for extended essay?
yeah, so I think again, like I said, the role of a mentor is really important. So that's what I will stress on again, emphasize on again, that it was like my teacher, like I discussed the criterion and everything with my teacher. So before writing down the essay or even choosing a topic, like the first task was to like go through the criteria, go through the different criteria, and then choose like and then see what is expected, what is a good extended essay, how to write a good extended essay, and examples of good extended essays. I think the rubric for the extended essay really helped me do that. So I think it's before even choosing a topic, it's really important to know what's expected of the research. So in my case, we had to do that like really quickly in like a day or two, but that was just like that was a special case because I had to do my extended essay in a month. But otherwise, like you should spend a good amount of time on just getting to know what is expected out of you. For example, like if I give my example, so because I had like such limited time, I also like chose to sorry, can you just cut this part out? Sorry. Next question.
Okay, that's a very detailed answer, Ujjwal. Now, can you share two tips for DP students to get A or B in the extended essay?
Like I said, planning is extremely important. So if you like plan correctly, like for example, before writing the structure, before writing the actual essay, you should know exactly what the structure of your essay is going to be. In my specific case, it was like because I did my EE on in English on like a children's book, which I thought was really interesting, by the way. Doing an EE on children's on a children's book, which is not very common, but you can still do it. So in a subject like English, it's easy to like do themes that are not very common. Like I've seen successful essays, English essays, extended essays on even like songs. So people even do that, or TV shows or movies and stuff like that, and you can still get an A if you do those topics. So don't be scared of topics in English, especially. Then like I was saying, planning is extremely important. So even before you start writing, you should have an idea of exactly what you're going to write, like structuring the essay in, because our EE is 4,000 words. So it's good to structure it in three different parts, like about 1,000 words each. And then the introduction and the conclusion form another 1,000. So that makes a perfect 4,000. So structuring it in three different parts and knowing exactly what argument you're making in each of these different parts is very important. And then every part of your essay should relate to the research question. That is also really important. Like if you like structure it before you start writing it, then you'll know like where you have to reach and how you have to start the argument, how you have to frame it, and where exactly you have to reach. So that will make things very easy. And then yeah, so what I did was I structured my argument uh, three different authorial choices, three different parts, for one for each authorial choice. So that was helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so I next question. I believe time management is crucial in extended essay from final draft, first draft, the second draft. So would you give an effectively managing the time to the DP student in their E journey? How did you manage time?
I like for this question, I would like to talk about things that I did not do, but I would want everyone else to do, because I had a very bad experience with time management in my excellent essays, especially like my initial math excellent essay, which is the reason I had to switch. So I would say do not underestimate your summer break. Like the summer break between 11th and 12th grade, DP1 and DP2 is so important. Like if you have a first draft of your excellent essay, which like most of my friends did and I did not, and they were like, it was very easy for them to work on it and score, like not very easy but relatively easier for them to work on it and score an A by the winter break. So do not underestimate your summer break, and try to get as much work done as possible on your extended essay, like at least a first draft during the summer break. That will help a lot.
Interesting, very interesting. So this is the last question in Extend Essay journey, Ujjwal. I would like to know, what is the important skill do you find the most important to develop excel in Extend Essay? Sir, I think this particular skill every student should have to excel in Extend Essay as per your opinion.
I think it depends on the subject also a little bit, but one thing that is common is probably analytical thinking. Because your extended essay is just research, it's effectively like you're doing real world research, right? So you should be able to add something to the existing research that's already there. So for English specifically, it was like my EE should like it was supposed to reveal things that are not obvious, that are not already like that someone has not already talked about. So even when I was like planning, the first thing was that I chose a book, which was Matilda, by the way. Like I chose to do my E on Matilda, and then I went through, like while I was reading, I annotated all the possible themes that I thought I could choose. Then I conducted very extensive literature review, which is really important. Like you have to see what all research has happened so you can build on that research, because like it's research, everything should be backed with it should be supported by evidence. All your assumptions should be supported by evidence, but at the same time they should bring out something new about your book or new about your topic. So I think that's really important, like some novelty in like research work. And Yeah, analytical thinking and critical thinking is really important for that. So
Yes, analytical thinking. That's a very important. So now I have a last couple of questions, Ujjwal, on a general thing. Can you tell what were two methods you used in the last few months before the IB exam to score a 43 points?
I think it's not going to work if students only do like only study in the last few months. Like I think consistency is key, which is something I also struggled with a lot. But if you can be consistent throughout, like if you study for every micro summative, every summative, then those last 2 months are like relatively easy. I'm not saying it's something that I like was able to do, but it's something that if you can do it, then it's like really helpful to be like consistent throughout, and to work for each MSA and each summative. And then the second thing is find the right schedule for your like for the last 2 months. It's very important to find the right schedule, and do not leave behind like sports, physical activities, or hanging out with your friends. That's also really important, because if you don't like include that in your daily routine, then you will not be able to sustain that routine, and you will burn out, which will make things really hard for you like during exams, which is where like you need to really like push through. So do not like it was really easy for me because I was in the boarding, so I had my friends around me all the time. And then when like I used to study during so my schedule was, because I study really well in the morning. I used to study in the morning, but then I had some break in the evening to like hang out with friends, and then I also used to go like work out with my friends. So like I didn't leave any part of that out, because I knew it was only going to help me sustain this routine. And like generally, like exercising and doing something like physical is really good for the mind as well. That's something like I would stress on a lot. And then like laughing with your friends is actually like a proven way to balance your happy hormones. So I think that's also really important during like exam time and a preparation time. So spend time with your friends, hang out, like have fun, exercise. But like when you're studying those like even if you're studying for 3 hours every day, you should really like if you focus really well in those 3 hours. For example, those 3 hours were like 5 a.m. to like 8 a.m. for me, and then like not 5 a.m., but like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., let's say. And then I used to study really like nicely during those 3 hours. And then the rest of the day, I could like even treat myself to like maybe watching a show that I liked at night. And yeah, so developing the right schedule is really important.
That's a different one. So, in your opinion, Ujjwal, what mistake should students avoid in a DP1 and DP2 to secure good grades?
Like I said, I think not being consistent is one mistake that it's not really unavoidable, but be as consistent as you can. For example, like it's something that even I couldn't do. Like I would only try to work hard for the exams that I thought would contribute to my predicted grade. Like if that microsummative was not contributing to my predicted grade, I thought like I should probably not study for it. But it really matters because in every small exam, like you study a very small chunk of the content, and if you can study it properly before that exam, then like it'll help you later on also. And then like another thing is like just studying for the sake of it, because even if you study very little, like I believe that you study very little, but study it properly, like smart work over hard work any day. So study very little, but like be very focused when you're studying, because if you're very focused when you're studying and you take it all in very nicely the first time, then you won't have to study it again and again. So it's like putting your all when you're studying, focusing nicely when you're studying is really important.
Okay. So, Ujjwal, my last question of the podcast. I know achieving a 43 is not easy, just 2 points away from the 45. Can you tell how did you deal with your stress, especially from your personal experience, from the parents, from the teachers, from the peers? 43 is not easy. How did you handle the stress? Can you give some tips and tricks to the DP students and especially for the parents, how the child can handle the stress when they want to achieve a high score?
I think I'm like really grateful that my parents, they're usually like, oh, it's okay. We don't want you to focus on marks and everything, right? So there's like no pressure on me to like, I have to get these marks, or I like something will happen. I don't know. So I'm really grateful, first of all, to like all my parents, all my teachers and my parents, that they don't force me to get those marks, because then that pressure can actually be counterproductive. But otherwise I think like personally, like on my like personally I like it's usually me who stresses about my exams and not my parents. So but in that regard, I think stress can be a really good motivator. Like use it to motivate you, because sometimes when I'm not stressed, then I do not have any motivation to work at all. So I think stress can be really productive if you can if it doesn't if you don't let it overwhelm you, because if you let it overwhelm you, then it can be counterproductive. So like whenever you're stressed, just think about how you can make that stress go away, which is by studying, right? So use that stress to motivate you, but don't let it overwhelm you,
Wow,
which I know is hard, but
brilliant, unique.
it,
I never heard about it. Use stress as a motivator. Ujjwal, it's a brilliant conversation with you about your success and all your experience will be the lesson for many DP students who want to achieve the idea. Ujjwal, your final words.
so thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I feel honored. And secondly, I feel like you can do it if you believe in yourself and stay consistent, and use stress as a motivator, and do not sacrifice time with your friends or like exercising and taking care of yourself. Do not put that over your IB exams, because in the long run, it's you that matters, right? My parents always say, हमको उज्जवल चाहिए, हमको marks नहीं चाहिए. So just go with that mindset, I think.
Thank you for listening to the Guru Mantra podcast with your host, Guru Charan Kumar. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into all the tips and tricks about the TOK extended essay. If you enjoyed this episode, then like our podcast, please share with your friends and post it on social media. Thank you, Ujjwal. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.